Welcome to Know Your Flow, the podcast from Femme, where we help you understand your body, embrace your cycle, and feel empowered through every phase of womanhood. Let's get flowing. Hello and welcome to Know Your Flow, the podcast by Femme, where we explore reproductive health, wellness and empowerment. I'm Stef, one of the founders, and today we're joined by Andrea, who is the founder of Lush Coaching. Hi Andrea, you okay?
Hey Stef, yeah, I'm doing great, thanks. How about you?
Good. Yes, all good. And so today we are diving in to a topic that's deeply personal, but often overlooked: maintaining intimacy during a fertility journey. Whether you're going through IVF, IUI, or navigating the emotional ups and downs of trying to conceive, intimacy, both emotional and physical, can be challenging. And so it is absolutely amazing to have you here today and to discuss this topic, which, affects many of us that are on fertility journeys. And it's something that I hear every day through our customers and partners in the fertility industry. So thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. It's great to be here. And thanks for inviting me in. I'm excited for our conversation.
Amazing. And I've been on one of your sessions as well myself with my partner, and we've sort of been back and two on how we can work together next year. So I think it's really exciting for me and for the team here at Femme to have you join us today. So thank you very much. So can you just tell us a little bit about your work at Lush Coaching and how you support couples during fertility journeys?
Sure. Yeah. So I am a sex and relationship coach. And so the work that I do really encompasses the full experience of an intimate relationship. I know there are some people who work in the space of relationships that only do that. Some people work only with sex and that element of it. But my practice, I thought, okay, well, it's all kind of within the same experience of the couple relationship. And even if you're single, if you're an individual, then intimacy absolutely plays into the dynamic when there's intimacy, when there's the erotic involved. And so for me, whilst they can be separate experiences, the relational element of the way we are with another, there also is this beautiful and sometimes very challenging element of intimacy. And that when I say intimacy, I mean physical as much as you kind of spoke to emotional, and so many other flavors of intimacy. There can be intellectual intimacy. There can be so many other expressions of how we can be intimate with someone. And yet oftentimes for most of us, and this is changing and shifting, but for most of us, the relationship that we choose as a primary relationship with a partner does have the element of eroticism in it. And that comes with the physical as well as the emotional as well as the energetic, and can sometimes even feel like a soul level, a spirit kind of connection with someone. And so it feels like sacred work. It is beautiful work. I love doing it. I love going deep with couples, and kind of see myself more of a facilitator even than a coach. So I would say I'm a therapeutic coach because I go deep, and then my aim is to help move you forward. But more and more also I'm playing with this description of facilitator, because really I sit with a couple to facilitate what wants to emerge, what wants to blossom, what wants to be experienced between the two people. And that feels like my actual role when I sit with couples. So I work with all sorts of challenges with couples who are going through the fertility journey. It can be especially tender and also pretty challenging, because it is a time when we would love to feel more romanticism around things, and we would love for things to happen in another way, and for whatever reason they aren't. And so now we have, within the context of intimacy, these challenges that have sometimes nothing to do with how we feel about one another, how we feel connected, and yet those other challenges seem to be getting in the way of feeling connected, feeling close, feeling tenderness, feeling connection, and experiencing pleasure together. So it's a very particular kind of space to be in when you're moving through the fertility journey and experiencing intimacy and maybe challenges in intimacy as well as challenges in conception. And they can be separate, they can kind of sort of mush sometimes. And so part of my, I would say part of my role perhaps, or part of the understanding or the untangling with couples is to understand, okay, what is what opportunities are there here for us to actually use this unique experience, this challenging time to come closer and go deeper together. So, and really find some gifts and some gems within all of it. So, yeah, that was quite a long one, but there you go.
No, it's really interesting. Like I mentioned before, I joined you on one of your masterclasses with my partner. We are not on a fertility journey. However, we have some room for development around understanding what intimacy is. And I think the one thing that he really took from that after we did the masterclass with yourself is about how it doesn't present always in physical. And I think, I only speak for myself, but as a woman, that sort of gets you going, the non-physical leads to the physical, whereas my partner, it's very much, he sees you getting changed, or he just sees you in general and he's ready to go. But for me, it's much of a more slow process that sort of leads to that. And so I found it really quite powerful how you did some of the tactics and some of the work that we did on the masterclass. And like you mentioned, on the session, is that we see a nutritionist, some of us, we see a PT. So why not see a sex therapist? Because, it's healthy. It brings you closer. It's so many powerful, positive outcomes from developing that side of your relationship, and that really highlighted it to us. However, this session really is about how it's impacted on a fertility treatment when your outcome really is to have a baby, and the mental impact that can have and how that can impact intimacy. So how would you explain intimacy outside of being physical, outside of intercourse?
Yeah. So there are so many ways for people to connect, because it sounds like what you're describing that you experience and that your partner experienced are different ways of coming together and feeling that magnetism and desire and ultimately connecting. And what one person might need in order to get there and feel ready to connect in a very deep way. So intimacy, when there's depth of connection, is ultimately what two people really, really long to experience. And yes, the physical is beautiful and wonderful, and can be experienced in so many different ways, from people who are more sensual and love touch, love the softness, love a sensual sense. So if you think of your five senses, experiencing pleasure that way. For someone like your husband, maybe they're a bit more sexual, so they're ready to go, they're ready to jump in, bring me to it. They love those kind of really intense experiences. So it's a very different energetic, it's a very different experience of what is more physical intimacy. And then there is that softer, the eroticism element of it. And the eroticism element is really that sparkle, that je ne sais quoi. Like, you can't really define what it is, but it's that those moments between, kind of, where there's the beginnings of something. And that is a different type of intimacy that you can share even with a stranger on the street. So if you're passing someone on the street and there's a moment, it's a very intimate thing that can happen, an exchange that can happen, those sparkly kind of moments. And so other ways to express intimacy, and I would say I don't know if I'll say it a little bit, maybe more directly, maybe this is what you kind of were alluding to, is in the fertility journey, if there is a lot of pressure on performance and having an outcome, then what that can zap right away is all of that beauty I just described. So all of the sensuality, all of the moments of magic, it just gets zapped because we're on a mission. We're going to do this thing. We're going to go this place. We're going to get it done. And if it doesn't happen, then we make so much meaning about what, are we going to have a family? Are we not going to have a family? Should we even stay together? Does it mean our relation? Like we go into the meaning kind of loops and beginning. So a lot can happen to really squash those magical moments. And so what you're suggesting is how can we create some of that magic without having to do the thing? And some of that is through, everyone's speaking about it now, but vulnerability. So sharing your emotional world and finding words for feeling what emotions you're experiencing, and maybe even how you're feeling as a result of that. And it doesn't always have to be language. So I mentioned finding words is great. And you can learn to find language for emotion, especially with men, because they haven't been as supported and certainly hardly at all in expressing their emotions and how they feel. They may not have words, but sometimes they have movement, or sometimes they'll express it through lovemaking. I'm feeling these emotions and I express it in this way. That's why they crave physical intimacy with a woman, because they wouldn't, or with their partner, if they're not necessarily heterosexual, because they just don't know how else to express all of these feelings inside. And so you can use touch in a non-sexual way to be intimate with another. So there is the intentionality behind the touch of connecting more deeply than you would with a friend or with a family member. And the intentionality behind the touch is what makes the quality of the touch intimate. And so it doesn't have to be a physical act of sex. It can be the intentionality behind touch to give pleasure to your partner, or to receive pleasure from the touch maybe that you give. And so sometimes it's understanding, okay, am I giving touch for them? Or am I actually giving it for myself? And it could be a mix of both. And understanding how through touch can I give or receive what I might need to feel closer to my partner. And asking your partner too, how would you like to be touched? How do you want to experience touch right now? I'd love to share with you this. How does it feel to you? How does it feel to you? And there are some practices that are a bit more structured around touch in that way. So I spoke to language, so being vulnerable and speaking the tough stuff, especially in the fertility journey where you're going through a lot of emotional ups and downs. The person who is carrying the child potentially is also having hormonal influences, and things are going all over the place sometimes in their bodies. And so being able to just share that experience with another and be seen and heard and understood and acknowledged in that way can really bring two people closer. And then for the supporting partner, I like to kind of refer to the other person as the supporting partner in some ways, because they are doing a lot of support a lot of times, all the things that they're experiencing and they're feeling, because oftentimes they're having a whole entire emotional roller coaster and all sorts of thoughts and feelings about the situation as well that are very different from the other person, but equally as valid and can be also just as intense. So really being able to share what both people are experiencing will really, really bring you closer. And then intimacy can also be expressed through doing stuff together. So fun stuff together. And this is something that can be really beautiful to remember, like joy and happiness. And when we just hung out and things were just kind of easier and fun, doing those kind of things, going on date nights and just being silly. And the things, whatever activities that you used to do with your partner before all of this, let's say, can really bring you together again. And they're unique experiences that you both share. And they're great for boosting dopamine and all the good, like oxytocin and all the good kind of chemicals to bring you back up again. So I would say language, touch, activities, things that you're sharing. Spontaneity is also another way to come closer and feel intimate with another, because it's a sort of like a surprise moment or a thing that you're doing together that feels like, unusual and out of the usual habit of things, and that can really make it feel like something secret or something private between the two of you, like taking the other person out for lunch when really they're supposed to be, at that 9 to 5 sitting at their desk. So that can really also fuel what can feel like closeness or togetherness, those kind of things.
Yeah. I think the key point there is the communication, isn't it? And I think, often that can break down because, like you say, there's sometimes a lot of pressure on one side of the relationship, taking the medication and, they're the ones having the scans and sort of going through. But then, like you say, there's the impact on the other partner there that sort of sat in the sidelines feeling a little bit helpless, but then has to perform. So it can lead to a lot of anxiety. And how can couples maintain a healthy sexual relationship when the treatment schedules and medical procedures can make it challenging?
Yeah. So how couples define sex also can differ. So one couple can say, okay, this for me means sex, I feel satisfied from it. And another couple could have a whole different definition for what feels sexy or sexual. And so what I did with one couple I was working with was they developed amongst themselves a set of cards, and it was kind of like a green, yellow, red. It's very, or I think we had almost blue, green. Anyway, blue being kind of like the more gentle stuff, and the red stuff being like, this is very sexual, this is very much there. So that within their relationship, one person and the other could say, okay, for you, that feels like it's a red. But actually for me, I'm more of like, that feels like a yellow for me, or even an orange, like we're not even anywhere close to what feels like sex to me. So kind of getting on the same page and what feels like it's going to be a satisfying sexual experience. Sometimes it's just watching porn together. And then it's like, okay, wow, we've done that thing. And there's some beautiful ethical porn that you can watch there's not loads out there. So kind of choosing well. If you're going to choose erotica or what to watch because you want it to feel also nourishing. And I can share some resources if that's interesting. But that's another way for a couple to feel like they're having a sexual experience. If their bodies or a body is just feeling like, I don't want to go there, but I want to connect with you in this way, or I can see that you really want to connect in this way, and I'd like it to be a shared experience, but my body is really like, it's just not there. So coming up with these other ways of experiencing the sexual together that may not include penetration or intercourse is amazing. And defining for each person what's going to feel really good, and then deciding together where we want to go and how we want to be.
And I suppose that's a really good sort of tactic around if there is performance pressure, is sort of taking a step back and saying we are going to have this sort of sexual experience. However, the pressure is not going to be on you ultimately. I've never actually thought of it that way. Well, if you are in that scenario, for example, then, and you're watching that, and then one person is wanting to continue that and the other person isn't, where do you sort of recommend that moves on from then?
So communication, like you were saying, is really key. So you can name what you're experiencing. For example, one person can say, okay, it feels like you really want to go there. And my body right now, like, I'm just not feeling it. I'm not ready. I don't want to. How can I meet you? Like, where can we meet? Would you like a blowjob? Would you like me to use my hands? Would you like me to observe? I'm getting a bit, just being very literal now because it's helpful sometimes. I can watch you masturbate if that feels really good and celebrate what you're experiencing. Because you don't want to override whatever your true, authentic experience is, and we want to meet the other person as much as possible. So it's kind of where can we step forward? Where can we meet the other? That feels good for them and also good for us. Because if you trespass that line either way, then it can really think resentment can build. Your body will start losing trust in you. And when that disconnect happens between mind, body, heart for a person, then that wants it takes a little bit of while to repair that again and to gain trust, your body to trust you, and then relax and open. So another thing that I sometimes do with people is, and especially with individuals, and this is something that's a lot of these things I've moved through myself, so I'm sharing them also from my own personal experience. And this was a very pivotal one for me, was when my mind wanted to engage with my partner, when my mind wants to go there because I want to be close to him, but my body is kind of not really responding, or there's even a no. I ask myself, body, self, what do you need in order to be a yes? Because right now I would really love to connect with my partner in this way. Well, we just need to slow down. I just need to be slower and softer today. Okay, I can meet you there. Or if my body's really not responding, it's like, okay, I'm not getting any messaging from you. I'm just going to hold it. Everything's just going to go on hold. And we're just going to stop. Or I'll lean in and say, okay, I'm not hearing much from you. So I'm just going to lean in a little bit. I'm going to kind of go there and see then if my body opens, or if she's still like, no, this isn't there. It's a clear yes or no. So you kind of want to have that dialogue with yourself, with your body. If you do want that desire, that connection, what do you need in order for it to be a yes if you want it, or what's going on that there's a no there, and begin to work with it that way.
It's really interesting. It's a lot of food for thought. It makes me I just could talk to you all day. I just want to talk a little bit around self-care when it comes to intimacy and sort of the sexual side of a relationship. I have been very much guilty of just saying yes to intercourse just to please my partner when, like you say, my body does not want to respond. I've been very guilty of that. It almost feels like I don't want to reject him. And I think I've definitely learned that needs to just better communication as opposed to just doing it. However, what I would say is sometimes when I do just do it, I enjoy it. And then I finish, and then afterwards I'm like, that was fine. Why did I get so in my head about it? So I just want to talk a little bit about how does self-care contribute to sustaining the intimacy in a relationship, and whether there are simple techniques or exercises that couples can do individually or together to relieve that stress and sort of get in the moment. Because often, like I say, I'm like, no. And then when I'm there, it's great.
Yeah. And so there's, I think I heard two questions there. So one is, what can you do to relieve stress and go there? And the other question is around self-care. I'm going to kind of answer them a little bit, maybe separately. So when we say self-care, or in this moment, in this conversation with you, what I would say self-care would be is to be sure that you're rested and nourished enough, because your body actually prioritizes those two things, rest and food and nourishment, before sex. So sex, as beautiful and wonderful as it is relegated to a lower category of needs by your body. So if you're overstressed, and also if you're stressed, then cortisol levels go up, and that inhibits your ability to experience desire and pleasure even. So if you're stressed and you're constantly in stress, there's a chemical thing happening within your body to ensure that you come back down to balance before you go for desire, before you go for pleasure, before you go for... So if you're wondering why your libido is always low and you're always stressed out, there is a chemical thing that's happening within you that's blocking you from actually experiencing desire. So you do want to bring
Can make
stress
that
levels
quite
down.
difficult.
Yeah, it's not just
I
a
was just
mind
going to say
thing.
that can make, which can
It's
make it
not
quite
just
difficult when you're on a fertility journey because it comes with a lot of stress and you do need to have intercourse.
yeah, yeah. And so a lot of couples will force it, and then they begin to associate sex with negativity and just force and not having it feel fun or pleasurable at all. And so managing the stress is a tricky one. It's not tricky. I'm going to say managing stress is something that we can manage when we have the skills and tools and feel safe enough in our relationship in order to do that. The skills and tools are learning how to communicate vulnerable stuff openly with our partner, and being able to hear also what their experience is. So it's one thing to share, and there's another thing of feeling grounded and secure and safe enough and stable enough to also hear what they have to say, so that you can hear it and be with it without being reactive, and vice versa. So all of the stuff that we hear all the time is actually really good for managing stress. So yoga, meditation, if you're a movement person, running or walking, getting your body going, because if you're moving your body, then it gives your body a chance to metabolize some of the chemicals, stuff that's going on. It gives your body a minute to also disperse some of the energy and that built up, pent up stuff that wants to come out. So the body-based ways of relaxing are really good. And then the mind-body stuff too. So I mentioned already meditation, but if that's not your thing, some people just listening to really high vibe music. So music that is, that brings you up. So music that really opens you, that brings you up, that can lift you is incredible too. So these are, I know they're really super simple. I know that we hear them all the time. And if you can build this in a small way into your life, some of these things as new habits, if you're not already, that can help reduce stress too. And absolutely talking about the meaning that you're making in any moment about what's happening or not happening. So there's the experience of what you're going through, and then there's the meaning that you make from that experience. If I can't perform for my partner, this is the only thing I've got to do. This is the only way. She's going through all this stuff. This is all I've got to do, and I can't even do it. I must be I'm a terrible person. Like, I can't even do this. I'm a failure. I can't even. So really watching that and what you're making it's a stressful situation. It's a tough situation. You know, can you give yourself some compassion and kindness and a bit of a break? And yes, you know, your partner's going through a lot, and so are you. And so are you. Yeah, it's tough for both.
So are you.
It doesn't have to mean that
is
you're awful and terrible and not showing up. You're showing up. If you're showing up, you're showing up. You'll know if you're not showing up. If you're showing up and you're showing up and it's tough, it's because it's tough. Like, a lot of people are going through this. It's not, it's just, it's tough stuff. And, you know, a lot of people come to me for help. So, you know, you also sometimes need support in managing the stress and having a space to talk about stuff. And if you've never done any of this before, then now it's really, after doing this work for so long, it's a gift to be pushed to a point where you're actually asked to come forward and open up and release stuff and move through it and heal it and learn and grow. And that's the gift side of it. And when you're in it, there's no way in hell any of that's going to land with you. You're like, this is hell. I just want to get out of it. This isn't a gift at all. This is torture. So I also get that too. If that's really where you are, then get the support. Like, get support.
Yeah.
If all the, you know, this podcast is going to be hopefully helpful to people. All the stuff you're reading is helpful. The friends and family are helpful. Community is helpful. And if you're still feeling like you're really struggling with your partner, and it wants sacred space with someone, then you ask for it, and you get yourself into that container with someone who's trained to help you move through stuff and be with stuff in a gentle way, but that moves you forward.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today. I think maintaining intimacy during a fertility journey, like you say, it is not easy, but it's so important for both your relationship and your well-being to be able to navigate it. And for the listeners, please remember that small steps, open communication and seeking support can make a big difference. We can obviously find your incredible coaching at lushcoaching.com, and you can also check out Femme for more resources on reproductive health and wellness. And I just want to thank you so much for being here today. I will make sure we put all of your ways to contact you in the show notes. And yeah, just thank you for being so open and joining us. And if we can only help one person, then our job is done today.
That's right. And if anyone does have any questions for me, feel free to ping me. I'm on Insta or through my website. I'm here and I'm happy to have a conversation. Thanks, Steph.
Amazing. What's your Instagram handle, just for the listeners?
Andrea Balboni. So Andrea Balboni _Lush.
Amazing. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you, Steph, for having me.